From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Angela Brown. Not long ago, we were telling you about heavy snow in Washington's Cascade Mountains, but heavy rain has followed. It's raising the risk for avalanches. This past Friday, 2 men were killed after they were buried in an avalanche. Meteorologist Stella Sun tells us more about this danger.
In the Cascade Mountains,
it's disappointing. It'd be nice to have it be snow.
The thick white coat the mountains normally have in mid-January looks more like spring.
It's looked like springtime like the whole winter, basically.
Anywhere from 1 to more than 5 inches of rain in recent days, melting some of the fresh snow that blanketed the Cascades last week.
Really dangerous to get off trail or get on any slopes.
This hiking up concerns for avalanches in the backcountry. Different layers of snow, like heavy wet snow to light weak snow, can create instability on steep slopes. The top layer of snow can then become susceptible to avalanches.
It's scary to know there's more chance of avalanche. So.
In red, the Northwest Avalanche Center says there is a high risk along the west slopes of the North and Central Cascades. Below that in orange, a considerable risk for Snoqualmie Pass, Stevens Pass, and the east slopes of the North Cascades. Yellow is moderate risk for the rest of the mountain range.
We're not overly worried about the avalanche. We're mindful of it and make sure to keep out for signs and stuff like that.
On Friday, tragedy struck near Longs Pass when an avalanche swept away 4 backcountry skiers touring the upper Tanaway River drainage.
That 2 people recently passed in an avalanche.
The Kittitas County Sheriff's Office confirmed 38-year-old Paul Markoff of North Bend and 43-year-old Eric Henney of Snoqualmie Pass were killed after an avalanche buried them. 2 others survived and sent out distress calls to deputies using a Garmin satellite device.
One weather phenomenon that can help reduce heavy snow is something called overrunning. Meteorologist John Gum explains how it works.
In the winter months, we get a mechanism in meteorology called overrunning that is responsible for a lot of messy weather. This particular mechanism happens when we've got cold air in place at the surface. That cold air is dense, it's heavy, it stays near the ground. Well, when warm air comes along to try to scoot that cold air out, it doesn't have a lot of luck doing so. So what instead happens is the warm air is forced up and over of the colder air. And as that occurs, that warm air rises, it cools, moisture condenses out of it into clouds and precipitation. And as that precipitation falls through the cold air at the surface, well, that's when we get a mess. We can get all sorts of precipitation types. We can get fog, we can get rain, we can get freezing rain, sleet, even snow, if the depth of that cold air is large enough. So this is a messy setup. This is called overrunning. Eventually here, what happens is that warm air that's forced up and over the cool air, eventually it cools off enough that it can't produce any more clouds or precipitation when you get away from the warm front itself. But boy, oh boy, this is a messy setup. It's responsible for some of our biggest ice storms, some big amounts of sleet, and even sometimes big amounts of snow during the winter months.
The U.S. Forest Service has started what's known as pile burning in the Plumas National Forest in Northern California. It's when branches, leaves, and other debris are piled up and burned to reduce the risk of wildfire. The location is the same area impacted by the 2018 Camp Fire, which killed 85 people. Hannah Gutierrez has more.
Around 84 acres of piles were burned by the U.S. Forest Service in Magalia on Monday as part of ongoing fuel reduction work in areas burned or threatened by the 2018 Camp Fire. The burn safeguards the remote communities of the ridge by creating a fuel break and eliminating dead materials.
Fuel breaks are designed to make it so that we have good access for firefighters during fire activity, right? It's like building a fire line prior to a fire happening to protect our communities and to protect our access and egress routes to areas that are heavily wooded.
Piles are composed of beetle-killed trees and ladder fuels in an area of the Plumas National Forest.
We want to maintain these mature trees. We want to encourage some new growth so that we have a variety of different species of tree. We want to make sure that we have a variety of age of tree but we want to keep that sort of undergrowth to a minimum.
The project, done in collaboration with the Butte County Fire Safe Council, Resource Conservation District, plus state and tribal groups, is critical ahead of the 2026 fire season.
For communities like Magalia and Paradise who have seen really catastrophic wildfire, it's critical. These forests are fire evolved. We will see fire again, and we know that. So making sure that we are keeping these forests just as resilient as possible is critical.
Nearby residents were made aware of crews coming in and out of the area, as well as visible smoke.
We've seen overwhelming support. There's really great understanding in California that we need to have this momentum on projects like this in order to make sure that we do keep our forest resilient.
Hawaii's Kilauea volcano was back in action on Monday. It spewed a spectacular fountain of lava, the 40th such episode since the volcano returned to life in December of 2024. Yesterday's fountain was more than 1,500 feet high, with plumes of smoke rising 20,000 feet in the air, and then nearly 10 hours after it started, the lava flow stopped. All the lava was confined to Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. And as we reported yesterday, the entire state of California is now drought-free for the first time in a quarter of a century. It's a different story for some local farmers, though. One farmer telling reporter Maria Celeste Alfaro, California is letting fresh water go to waste.
I'm excited to hear that the state did receive water from Mother Nature and God, that we did receive the rain and the snow.
The U.S. Drought Monitor released its latest map last week, showing California is now drought-free. But local farmer Daniel Paula says for farmers, it doesn't change much.
For farmers, there's really no difference between this and your average year. The state's only going to give us 10%. They tell us we're not in a drought, but we still have all of our problems. We still have a water shortage, and the state continues to let the water go out to the ocean. As soon as the fresh water is mixed with salt water, it's no good anymore.
Paula says without enough water, they have to rely on wells, an expensive alternative.
It costs a lot of money to pump water with wells. It's not cheap. It's very expensive.
He says the impact doesn't stop at the farm, it shows up in the grocery store. According to him, less water means less food and higher prices for consumers.
Yes, the prices are very, very expensive, and they keep going up. And we'd like them to come down.
Paula says what happens next, including state water decisions, will play a big role in whether family farms can survive.
My family's been farming in Kern County for over 100 years, and we're going to do our best to continue farming, though many family farms were not able to make it through these hard times.
This time of year, we often talk about snow cover, but in the southeast, hail is common in the winter months. Marion Caldwell explains how it forms.
This time of year, severe weather is more prominent in the southeast, with cold fronts frequently moving through, and hail is one of the risks we're often left with. But how does rain within storms end up as hail? It all starts inside of strong thunderstorms. Powerful updrafts, which is basically just rising columns of air, lift water droplets high into the storm where temperatures are below freezing. Then those droplets freeze and form tiny hailstones, but they don't fall right away. Instead, they get swept up again and again by those updrafts, collecting more and more layers of ice each time, kind of like a snowball rolling up a hill. And eventually the hailstone gets too heavy for the updraft to hold it up. That's when gravity wins and the hail comes crashing down. The stronger the storm, the longer the hailstone stays in the air, hence the bigger it can grow before falling to the ground. So next time hail hits, just know it's a result of a wild ride through a stormy sky.
And time now to check the weather in cities across the nation. This morning we start in Atlanta. It will be a great day today with sunny skies and highs approaching 60, but that will all change come Thursday when Arctic air arrives overnight. Lows will be in the 20s with highs in the mid-30s. And that cold air will dip into Florida as well. Here in Jacksonville, it will be 63 degrees today, but lows will approach 30 degrees both Thursday and Friday. That's 15 degrees below normal. Up to Michigan now, where temperatures will fall into the low teens tomorrow night. There will also be snow, a little bit of snow on Wednesday, and then up to 9 inches in some places on Thursday. And then by the weekend, the wind chill could be well below zero. But let's end here on a warm note, and where to do it, better place to do it than in Phoenix, Arizona. The Valley of the Sun will see plenty of it today, and over the next week, highs each day will be in the 70s, with temperatures Thursday approaching the all-time record high of 81 degrees. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, we'll look at how climate change is leading to more moisture in our atmosphere, and we'll help you better understand the different types of fog.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with a look at the Northeast. A nice looking day is on tap in the Northeast for your Tuesday. Most areas will top out around 40 degrees. The pattern becomes a little more unsettled going into Wednesday and Thursday. We'll get into a round of showers with a weak front late tonight. That's 11 o'clock. That's going to move along, and expect some more showers, primarily rain showers moving in on Wednesday. The best chance for seeing a little bit of snow with this feature will be on Thursday, and our best chance for accumulating snow will be up in ski country.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Gerard Jabali. Here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region, tracking some dry conditions through your Tuesday afternoon. But as we get into Wednesday, that'll be a chance for some rain to move into the region. Just ahead of a cold front, we'll likely see showers becoming likely, especially the second half of the day. The mountains will see that mostly as snow, as it will get colder behind this front. So milder weather for your Tuesday afternoon into the 50s. We'll see the colder air starting to push in while we have mild temperatures in the afternoon on Wednesday. Wednesday night will get lots colder.
Hi, meteorologist Jennifer Collins with a look at your southeast forecast. Cloud cover lingers around heading into your Tuesday for most of central and south Florida with a chance for a few coastal showers. We're watching as a strong cold front boundary moves in from the west heading into Wednesday and Thursday. This will usher in a big cool down in store for the end of the week with chilly weather in store for Friday and into Saturday too. Afternoon highs on Tuesday though cool across the southeast with temperatures in the 50s and 60s for the northern Gulf Coast and the mid 70s in South Florida.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
Check out this sunrise in Michigan. You can see the sun's reflection on the water, but clouds obscure it in the sky. It was a very different sunrise in eastern North Carolina. A beautiful orange sky welcomed the sun, which remained visible until it reached high-level clouds. And this fog bow was spotted in Rhode Island. It's formed by the diffraction and dispersion of light through tiny water droplets.
Listen to Off the Radar. Find it wherever you get your podcasts.
Well, it's mid-January, and depending on where you live, that means you most likely have or soon will deal with ice and snow on roads and walkways. And ice can be dangerous whether you're on your feet or behind the wheel. Meteorologist Audrey Lee looks at ways you can avoid ice dangers this winter season.
Slipping on ice or skidding on the road can happen to any of us, and it can happen in a split second. But there are ways to stay more in control when it does. Sometimes the first challenge isn't driving, it's getting to your car.
The most common mistakes people make when walking ice, they're walking too fast and they're not paying attention to what's going on. So sometimes you don't even see the ice, and that's when the big accidents happen.
Changing the way you walk can make all the difference.
As silly as it sounds, it's walking like a penguin. Kind of turn your feet out and just walk slow and take your time.
Knowing how to get back up on your feet after a fall is key.
So roll onto your side, and then keep rolling over, and then put your hands out in front of you, so you kind of build a base, and then roll up onto your knees. And then slowly sit back, and then slowly bring one foot up. Look around if there's anything to grab, and then you just stand on up.
Driving is another challenge, and there are a few common mistakes that make skids more likely.
Driving too fast and braking too late. Just brake easy and early and plan ahead. Ease off the gas and turn the direction you want the car to go.
Don't forget, your car has exterior lights. Make sure to use them, but avoid using your high beams. Low beams work best in winter. So whether you're heading into work, walking a dog, or just grabbing a morning cup of coffee, a little extra caution goes a long way.
When catastrophic flooding hits, we often refer to rainfall totals. What if the most important number comes before the rain even starts? A recent investigation from the Washington Post reveals how rivers of moisture in our atmosphere are fueling these major flood events. Meteorologist Emily Gracie spoke to a Washington Post meteorologist to learn more.
What we looked at was a metric called integrated vapor transport, kind of this nerdy term, IVT for short. But basically what it does is describes the amount of moisture flowing through the atmosphere, its speed, its direction, and its magnitude. And it can be very helpful to understand where kind of moisture sources are. So is this moisture plume, let's say with Hurricane Helene, where did that originate from? And how can we use that information to understand how intense the rain that is going to fall out of those clouds may be when it gets there? What this project did is actually went back several decades to kind of understand how this metric has changed. And we can use that information. What we did was we used that information to kind of pinpoint these hotspots around the planet to understand where that change is happening the most.
Let's dig into the science a little bit more and these specific hotspots that you're talking about.
I think the one key message is that integrated vapor transport since the early 90s has increased across over 80% of the planet. So this concept is affecting many different places, but not necessarily equally. So we kind of try to distinguish, signal from the noise. So the eastern US is a pretty big hotspot. Western Europe, we've heard a lot out of flooding out of Spain recently, pretty much the entire country. Portugal, that is also a hot spot. But I should say, what is interesting is that there may be places on the planet where having more rain isn't necessarily a bad thing. It kind of forces us to rethink about, as patterns change, how things may evolve in terms of farming practices, different temperature bands, depending on what hemisphere you're in, moving north or south, and how the rainfall will change with that. So it's kind of, I think it also informs some of this like adaptation piece, how we kind of shift our ways with a warming and moistening world.
Want to know which regions are seeing the biggest surge in atmospheric moisture? This week's episode of Off the Radar breaks down the hotspots and what it means for your community. Find it wherever you get your podcasts. New episodes drop every Tuesday.
The United States of America has a big birthday coming up this year, 250 years. I'm Taylor Murray. America, it's the land of the free because of the brave. This week, we take a look at honor flights celebrating the brave men and women who answered the call of service to America and defend her still today. From the Revolutionary War, where America's independence was won, to the Civil War's turning point Battle of Gettysburg that secured her as one nation indivisible. To the Western Front, victory in the trenches of World War I and beyond. True patriots, the men and women of the armed forces, protecting America against all enemies, foreign and domestic. The heroes who are still with us, honored with flight.
It's an absolute honor to be able to take these men and women out to Washington, D.C., to see the memorials that they've been dedicated to their service and sacrifice, as well as the comrades that didn't come home.
A day packed with stops to the memorials built in their honor.
Well, they do honor me a little bit because I'm a World War II veteran.
Good to see you. All the best.
An honor flight towards healing and oftentimes closure.
Vietnam was an experience that you had to be there to understand it. We were instructed to, if any way possible, to not even wear our uniforms when we landed on the way home.
For the veterans who never received a heroic homecoming, an honor flight is the long-awaited welcome home.
To come back with survivor's guilt, with the politics at the time, and to deal with that for 50, 60 years, I think that the Vietnam Veterans Memorial is probably the most emotional for our veterans.
A moment to remember fallen comrades in arms, to find their names upon headstones or on the wall.
I have a couple of friends that are on the wall. I want to look their names up. I want to, see them. I'm sure it's going to be quite emotional.
Each name traced a lasting tribute to the ones who paid the ultimate sacrifice.
A little sad. That's the best way to put it. Yeah, brings back a lot of old memories.
A flight to honor the service.
Ask not what your country can do for you.
And the sacrifice.
Ask what you can do for your country.
By America's heroes for America's freedom. For Amazing America, I'm Taylor Murray with the National News Desk.
And as we head to break, we take in the views of Arbutus Lake in northern Michigan.
I'm meteorologist Marshall McPeak. Giant low pressure center in Ontario is dragging a big cold front through our part of the country on Tuesday, and that is going to create some snow showers across the Great Lakes. It will also create some rain showers in other areas. So Sioux City, you're cloudy and windy. Aim for a high near 56 degrees. Cincinnati, 52, and you may find a few rain showers from St. Louis to Lexington.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. Here's a look at your regional weather. Waking up a little on the chilly side early this morning, all the way from Amarillo, back on up into areas of Oklahoma, back over to El Paso, but warm and humid with a few little light showers scattered across the southern portion of the state of Texas. Otherwise, look for clouds and some sunshine today. A nice warming up. I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. That's a look at your regional weather.
Well, hi there, and a good Tuesday morning to everybody. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. We are far too warm again here in January in the PNW. Back into the mid-50s in Seattle and Portland, some of the surrounding communities close to 60. Meanwhile, very warm as well in California, 74 in San Diego, 60s out of Denver. The whole West continuing to see this blocking area of high pressure, keeping winter out of the way for now. And that's the scene from here.
I'm Lynette Grant, meteorologist at WSBT 22 in South Bend, Indiana, and you're watching the National Weather Desk.
The Michigan area experienced a bit of fog recently, impacting visibility. Meteorologist Eric Estreva explains the types most common for them this time of year.
There's also something called super fog, but that did not play a role in those lower visibility numbers. That is when some smoke actually combines with the fog under a high pressure system. That usually happens in the warmer months. Here in the colder months, we had two fog types, radiation fog and advection fog. On the colder nights where the winds weren't all that strong, we had a lot of radiation going back up into space. So the surface cooled. We had a lot of moisture after some rain and melting snow, and that led to that fog, that low cloud developing right at the surface. Then we also had advection fog when the warmer air that was being pushed in by our next wave of low pressure behind that first one, that came on in over colder ground. We still had cold ground surface temperatures. We had some moisture being added into there with the melting snow, and that led to more of that low cloud developing as a result.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Angela Brown. Make it a great day, and I'll see you right back here tomorrow.